Welcome back to another EDH deck tech. This is my Tovolar Dire Overlord deck. Super excited to do this deck tech today. So a bit of context, I've had a Werewolf Commander deck for quite some time now. It was my first Commander deck. When I first started playing Magic, I built a modern Werewolves deck with Collected Company and Aether Vial and all that, and I love that deck, but it wasn't particularly strong. It was definitely a fun F&M deck, and I was like, well, what do I do with these cards now that I'm kind of moving on to a different deck? And I discovered Commander, and I've been in love with the format ever since. So I did play Ulrich of the Krallen Horde as my commander for that deck. I absolutely loved that deck. I never did a deck tech on it just because it was a bit more casual. You know, werewolves aren't a particularly strong tribe. So yeah, it was always kind of my fun Timmy-Tammy deck. But with Midnight Hunt, they had Tovolar Dire Overlord, which I've been super happy with. Kind of does everything that I like to do with a werewolves, and you know, it draws cards, tramples over. So much fun. So we'll go through the deck. So Tovolar Dire Overlord, fantastic, draws cards. It's a coastal piracy for werewolves, great. 3 mana, nice and cheap. On the other side, Tovolar, the Midnight Scourge, fantastic, and also gives trample, so that's great. So next up, because we need to have at least 2 other wolves or werewolves, I wanted to focus on first transforming werewolves over, say, a wolf tribal or a mixture of both. I didn't want to keep it mainly werewolves, also because there are some other tribal effects that kind of, you know, don't work well when you have a split tribe, when you're kind of doing wolves and werewolves. So I'm trying to keep it as wolves as possible. Plus, I love the transformation of mechanic, so I'm keeping it like that. So I have a lot of actual transforming werewolves. I have 25 transforming werewolves and 26 werewolves in total, so one of them doesn't transform. But I start off with Village Messenger, so a nice cheap werewolf to come down before Tovolar. Has haste, that's okay, but on the other side, the Moonrise Intruder has menace, so it can kind of get in to combat. Hopefully you can pump it up and it can be a bit more threatening. Next up, Wolfbitten Captive. Another one that just comes down on turn 1, so hopefully you can ramp turn 2 and have Tovolar then the next turn. So you start first getting card draw. People aren't really getting their creatures out too early, so you know, you can start getting card draw as soon as you get Tovolar out. Has a nice little pump effect if you're not doing anything, and on the other side, same thing, a bigger pump effect, but yeah, essentially it's to come down a bit early, start being a little bit threatening, start getting that card draw as soon as Tovolar comes out, so that the next turn it can go to 9. Dustwatch Recruiter, another one, 2/2, great, and it has the activated ability so that we can look for more creatures, which is always nice. But then on the other side, you've got a 3/3 and it reduces creatures, so you got a bit of ramp coming out there, which is nice. Gat Shepard. This one's one that I never would consider in my Ulrich deck, just because I don't really want to play werewolves that don't really have good effects on their front side, because it was just so hard to transform your werewolves essentially. But with Tovolar, because we're forcing it, ones that have okay human sides but stronger werewolf sides can make a spot in the deck. So this one I've been actually quite liking. Also comes down before Tovolar, so if I can get 1/1, 1/2, and then Tovolar, then you know, on turn 4 you're flipping, you're not ramping, but you're getting a lot of card draw. So on this one, Gatstaff Howler, it has Intimidate, so it's harder to block. It is green, so it's less colors. There's another Intimidate creature in here, but it's more colors, so it's a bit easier to block. So this one's nice that it's just a bit harder to block, which is great. Okay, Kesig Naturalist. I've been in love with this card. It gives us extra mana, and on the other side, it's Lord of the Evenwald, where it also has the same effect, but it's also going to give a pump, which is really nice. Comes down on turn 2 as well. I really like the Daybound, Nightbound mechanic where it's pretty much got the same effect or something better, or a variation that's something better. On the other side, so I've really liked that, where some of the older ones seem to just have a disconnect between the two. I really like that kind of synergy. Mare of Everbrook, great lord. It is human sides on one, and then it is your Howpack Alpha on the other. It's going to give you tokens. It's going to pump your werewolves. That's what you want. The interesting thing about this one is that Tovolar will force it to night if you play it after it becomes night, or after Tovolar's trigger. It's going to come in on the other side. So all your other creatures are not going to be humans. You're going to have a lord that is humans. So it's a bit of weird. You have to kind of work on the timing, but hopefully then the next turn they all transform, so it'd be great. Okay, Outland Liberator, really love this card. Has been great. It comes down 2, so it comes down before, and it only costs 1 to obviously destroy a target artifact or enchantment. But on the other side, you've got your Frenzy Trap Breaker. I want to be attacking, so I want to get that trigger, and you're going to be hitting people's soul rings and arcane signets and stuff like that, even nice and early. So I really, really like this effect. I think it has a lot of versatility, and it only costs 1 mana to activate it, so nice and cheap. Really, I've really liked this one. Scorn Villager, 2 mana dork. Usually you wouldn't play these kind of effects, but this is a werewolf deck. You could opt for your mana dork elves, your Llanowar elves and things like that, and be fine, and in deck would actually probably be even better. But this is a werewolf transforming deck, so I do like this one. So it's a 1 mana 2 mana 1/1, so not great. Taps for 1. On the other side, it has vigilance, so you can attack to get that combat trigger in if possible. It is only a 2/2, and then it can add for 2 mana, so this is quite nice. It really kind of on Tovolar, if you get Tovolar out, say turn 3 with this beforehand, you're going to go into turn 4 with essentially 6 mana. So quite nice. Okay, Werewolf Pack Leader. So the only werewolf that doesn't transform, but I think it deserves a spot in Tovolar decks where you are going to get the trigger more often than not, because you really just need to attack with one other creature. So usually Tovolar in this would be fine. And it also has the activated ability to kind of give itself trample. We want as much trample as we can in this deck, so it's an effect that we're looking for anyway. Plus it has card draw, plus when it does combat damage, we're going to trigger with Tovolar. So it has everything that we want on this card. Comes down also before Tovolar. Okay, so Breakneck Rider, really love this card. This one's been great in my games. So 3 mana 3/3 is not that great. This one is 2 red to cast. I'm predominantly green, so sometimes the 2 red can be a bit awkward, but the other effect, the other side is just really, really great. So Neck Breaker, it's giving everything trample and +1/+0. So these are just things that we want. We want everything to buff all of our other creatures, and we want to get as much trample so that we can get those combat triggers in. Daybreak Ranger, one of the probably, I would say, the weaker ones. It has the tap ability to deal 2 damage. Usually doesn't come up. But on the other side, it's a 4/4, which is nice, and it can fight on its own, which also adds a little versatility. There's not too much removal, so stuff like this is quite nice. But what I found with this one is that I usually want to attack, so having this one kind of fight, then I'm not getting that card draw, but it can kind of help clear the way for some other wolves. So it's been okay, and I think it still deserves a spot in the deck. Okay, Guy Reach Bandit, great card. Has haste, so even after Tovolar comes out and I've transformed all my werewolves, this one can come through and still do damage. So that's, you know, an effect that I want. And on the other side, it's the Vilden Pack Leader. It essentially allows all my werewolves and my werewolves to transform when they come in, or may transform. So this obviously only affects your the older werewolves, so ones that are daybound, nightbound. It doesn't transform because only that mechanic can transform it. But for all your others, if Tovolar's out, we've already transitioned to night. We've already transformed all the decks, all the werewolves. And then I'm playing another werewolf and it comes out on its human side. So there's not a lot of synergy on the human side and the werewolf side. So it's nice to have this one out so that also the ones that are of the older variety also come down, transform, which is what we want. Who are the Nananols? It's an okay one. It doesn't have particularly great stats, but it does disincentivize our opponents to do anything on our turn. Most of the time I've found that a card is not really enough to stop somebody from doing something on your turn, if they wanted to in the first place. But when it transforms, 2 cards is a lot, and when they kind of look down the barrel of a bunch of werewolves attacking them, they really need to make hard decisions, and you're going to benefit from that. So the card draw is nice. 3/5 stats is not usual for a werewolf. Normally it's powers the other way, but the card draws, it's been nice, but usually doesn't come up too often. Hound Tamer, I've loved this card. So 3 mana 3/3 with trample. Whatever, it can add a counter, whatever. Those aren't particularly interesting to me, but Untamed Pup gives all our wolves and werewolves trample, which is the effect that we want. We want trample. We want to be able to pump them, do all that kind of stuff. So again, same effect with the counter. 4 mana is probably a lot to put a counter on, but you've got that flexibility. But the fact is, I'm giving all my team trample, which is what we want. Immerwolf's been a great card. In my Ulrich deck, this would have been one of the best, but there are some wolves that you want to transform back and forth, have them flip constantly. So keeping them in their werewolf side sometimes can be a down, not good, but it's been nice. It's 3 mana. It's not too expensive. It pups your team. It has Intimidate, so it can sometimes get in. But this one is 2 colors, so it's more chances of something being able to block. Sometimes it's nice to keep Tovolar in his bigger side, or your other werewolves in their bigger side. But you do like Tovolar to kind of flip so that you can constantly go from day to night. So sometimes the can't ability, it doesn't work in your advantage, but sometimes it does. Okay, Cruel Outlaw, love this card. It's one of my favorites. 3 mana 2/2 first strike, not particularly appealing, but because we can force that change, when it changes the other side, it's got double strikes, so we're going to get the 2 triggers, hopefully, and essentially it's going to give all our werewolves menace. So that's what we want. We want our creatures to be harder to block, have trample, be pumped up. So really love this, plus I love the art. Lambhold Elder, don't underestimate your Nana. I would never put this in an Ulrich deck. It just 3 mana 1/2 is just not particularly interesting, but because we can force the night, because we can force the change, the other side, Silver Pelt Werewolf, essentially doubles up on that combat damage trigger. When we deal damage, we're going to draw a card, and then with Tovolar, we're going to also draw another card. So 2 cards, 3 mana 4/5 sounds good to me. That's going to draw you 2 cards. Pretty good rate. Reckless Stormseeker, another one that I've been in love with. It's 2/3 for 3 mana. It's okay, but at the start of combat, it's going to give something haste and +1. Sometimes it's itself, so essentially a 3 mana 3/3 with haste. But if it is night with Tovolar, it's going to flip over give it haste +2 and trample. Again, trample is what we want. It's going to be a 5/4 if you target itself, but it's more like I've played this, I've got Tovolar out, and then the next creature I'm playing in my main phase will also have haste and trample. So this one's been really, really great. Essentially, with Tovolar, this, and then the next thing that comes out, you know, there's 3 creatures hitting like a brick. It's been really, really good. Okay, Ulrich's Kindred, one of the few wolves that I have. It's a 3/2 for 3, not particularly great, but when this gets pumped up, it has trample, so that's nice. It also has the activated ability of giving indestructible. You will be targeted. That's for sure. People don't like being attacked in Commander. That's one thing that I've found out playing this version of the deck, that's for sure. So just adding a little indestructible. It is a bit expensive, so it's not something that I get to use too often, but it's nice. And when this gets pumped up, it can be a real powerhouse. This one also works well with Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, obviously what it's named after, so those two work out very well. So I do have a nice little soft spot for this. It's one of the few wolves that I think are decent enough, but you could probably swap this out for something else if you had a preference. Afflicted Deserter, so 3/2 for 4 mana does not sound very good, does not sound like something that we want to be attacking with, but it has a great flip side where when it flips, it's going to essentially bolt somebody when it destroys an artifact. So it's going to flip, it's going to destroy an artifact, and it's going to bolt somebody. And it's a 5/4, so great stats. So this is one of the ones that we want to have flip over, kind of go back and forth. So with Immerwolf, it's not particularly that good, but just being able to just take out somebody's artifact, because we can flip now, like we're forcing that flip. So this is going to happen more often in a game than as opposed to another werewolf deck. So I've really, really liked the Werewolf Ransacker. Master of the Fells, one of the best werewolves, has modern play ability, or did. So 4 mana 2/2, not that great, but you get a wolf, so you get another body that's also going to help with Tovolar triggers. So just with this and Tovolar, you're going to force the Knight, which is nice, and a life gain, sure. And on the other side, shocking something is, has its utilities, but it has trample. It's a nice 4/4, and the art is fantastic. So, there's not much more you can say about that. Instigator Gang, another one, absolutely great. 2/3 for 4, again, does not have particularly good stats, but 10 creatures get +1/+0. So this one's okay, even if you play it on the other side, on the human side, after Tovolar, you're still going to get something. But if it does flip, it becomes a 5/5 trample with 10 creatures get +3/+0. So huge. 8/5 attacking when it's attacking with trample, so you're pretty much gonna get through. You're gonna deal that damage. Plus all your other creatures are also getting that buff, and hopefully you can give them trample. You're going to be hitting, and you're gonna get a lot of triggers. Like, you're gonna be drawing a lot of cards. You always have a handful of cards. Madronin Shaman, very interesting. The first card to reference Tovolar, which is great. 4 mana 3/2, not particularly appealing, doesn't really do anything. But on the other side, when your opponents cast spells, it's going to do 2 damage. Tovolar's Mage Hunter. So, just nice. Another one that disincentivizes your opponents from doing something. Ultimately, the 2 damage is not really disincentivizing them too much. I find that players will take it, but again, you're going to be flipping it on your turn, so it stops them from trying to cast spells, and then it most likely will flip back, so they're not going to have that same effect. So this one's one of the ones that you could possibly cut as well, but it does have Tovolar's name, fantastic art, and it does have a little effectiveness. Okay, another one, just a wolf, Nightpack Ambusher. It's just a Lord effect. It has flash, so I do sometimes like the, well, I think that I like the idea of the Tovolar and another creature, and they see that I don't have something to kind of help flip it over, and then I can kind of flash this in, and then suddenly everything becomes night, and I'm swinging out with a 5/5 commander. So I like that. I found the not casting spells, I don't really have a lot of flash. I have a bit of instant speed kind of effects, some things that mana sinks and things like that. So you can sometimes get the wolf, but normally I want to kind of keep pushing that board with bigger creatures than a 2/2 token, so I find that that's not always applicable. But yeah, this one's nice. You could probably swap this out for another werewolf if you preferred, or another wolf of choice. Okay, Sage of the Ancient Law. Another one, right? So this one comes in, it replaces itself. It's equal to the amount of cards in your hand, which is usually a 7/7. This is a 5 mana 7/7, because you are often discarding to hand size. And then on the other side, it's huge. So it's equal to all cards in all players' hands. So this is a 2020 Vigilance Trample, huge beater. This is kind of balanced around not really being able to flip, but now that we're forcing the flip, this is coming down, this is going to swing at someone, it's going to be huge. This one has been a blast to play with. Alright, Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, my original baby. I love this deck. I think it's a fantastic card. I know people have problems with it as a werewolf commander. I didn't care. I loved playing it. I loved it come down. It pumped up. Huge 4/4+4 on a creature, great, especially when we have lots of trample, so that's nice. And then on the other side, huge 6/6, and it gets to fight a non-werewolf. Sure, werewolves are popular, I guess, now, so it might be a problem. But yeah, it gets to fight when it flips over. So you're gonna force it tonight. You're going to fight, and you're going to help remove a blocker, and then get in. So I love this card, love the art, love everything about it. I miss you as my commander, Ulrich, but you do deserve a spot in my 99. And Tovolar's the new big baddie now. Village Watch. 5 mana 4/3, again, not really nice stats. It does have haste, so it can come down after Tovolar and still get the trigger, which is nice. But on the other side, obviously it's a 5/4. It gives everything haste. So again, if this flips with Tovolar, then your next creatures, if they're nightbound, they're going to come in really strong, and then B, they have haste, so you can start swinging out, getting those combat triggers. That's all we want to do. And then Tovolar's Huntmaster, huge. Wolf Titan, being called, so it's going to create 2 wolves. So again, this pretty much just an army in a can, and if it's night, it's going to come down and essentially create those tokens, and also when it attacks, which is great. So if I have haste going on, you're going to get your 2/2 wolves and then 2/2 wolves again. So huge, and it fights, so it's got some nice removal. It allows other werewolves and wolves to fight, which is great. So you have a bit of flexibility about, okay, maybe I need to just get rid of one of my werewolves or wolves to kind of get rid of a potential blocker. So that's the tribe. Now, so I've got a little bit of tokens in here as well. So I did focus mainly on transforming wolves, but to help with obviously getting as many wolves and werewolves out so that I can have the Tovolar flip. I do have a token package. So Arlen Core does create a token and then flips over, which is really nice. I awkwardly did not take these ones out of the sleeves. Flips over Arlen Embraced by the Moon, giving air things trample, again really nice. Bolting things, usually not really too relevant unless I want to kind of flip around to make more wolves, but it's really there to create a wolf and then give trample. So really nice. I've loved this card, I've had it for a very long time. Yeah, I've always loved Arlen Cord, it's one of my favorite planeswalkers. And then the other Arlen Cord, so also still in its sleeve awkwardly. This one has Daybound. I've been really loving this card. So it creates 2 wolves, which is really nice. So it's a bit better than the other Arlen. So with this and Tovolar, essentially it's everything you need. It also allows me to have flash with my creatures and they get a counter, which is nice. But the other side is, Arlen becomes her werewolf side, indestructible, trample, and haste. So if it's nightbound, you just hit with this 5/5 truck. It's huge. It's a lot of fun, obviously. So Tovolar comes out on 3, turns it to night, and then Arlen comes down as 5/5 indestructible trample. Oh, the feels. I love it, and the art is fantastic. Then Master of the Wild Hunt. Another one it's been a very interesting card in my testing. Having the wolf every upkeep can be slow, so you really want to have the kind of wolf package in there to kind of help with this, as you has the tap effect that essentially your wolves are kind of fighting with another creature. So it's nice to have, but I could see people cutting this one. I'm not too sure, because 1 wolf a turn is a bit slow, but it's nice to have some of that flexibility with the removal. So yeah. And then Wolf Caller's Howl, another one that you might want to remove. I've had a blast with this one. Essentially, it's a little army in a can. So your opponents just have to have 4 cards in the hand. So sometimes it might not be applicable. It really depends on your meta. If there's a lot of discard or a lot of low CMC decks, this might not be too relevant. But if you've got a lot of battle cruisering going on, this could be really great. This just gets you 3 2/2 wolves. So nice little army in a can. Okay, so the support cards. So werewolves have a lot of support cards actually, and in order to kind of pump them up and make them a bit stronger, they have some of these nice little support cards. So Full Moon's Rise is one that I've really enjoyed. So this is werewolves only, so not wolves, so which is again another reason why I've kind of more werewolves over wolves, but +1, +0, and has trample. So essentially it's the neck breaker effect, which is really great. It's 2 things that we want. We want trample, we want a power buff, and also can sacrifice at any time to regenerate werewolves. And regenerates, it has its place. It definitely does come up when someone tries to board wipe, as long as they don't Wrath of God or Damnation or something. So it's quite nice just to have, and 2 mana comes out quite early. Beastmaster's Ascension. Sometimes I love this card, sometimes I hate this card. Sometimes it's a 3 mana do nothing, and sometimes it's a 3 mana win the game. So it really depends on the board state, but it makes your werewolves huge, and that's the important thing. We want to be attacking. I want to attack with as many creatures as I can every turn. So this can definitely trigger. And if it does, it becomes a powerhouse, really. So great. It's exactly what we wanted to do in this deck. Outback Resurgent, another one that's just there kind of help pump. Again, it gives trample, it gives power and toughness, which is really nice. Has flash, so it can kind of be like a little combat trick, I guess. If your opponents don't think that you're going to have trample, you might want to have this come down, but it's been really nice. Rhythm Wild, it's going to make our creatures uncounterable, so that's can be a bit of a problem. I find that opponents aren't really going to one for one your werewolves, so it's not usually coming for that, but it does give them riot, so it gives them haste plus the +1/+1. I do often pick the haste, but depending on the board, you know, you might want to do the +1/+1. Yeah, it has a lot of flexibility, a lot of versatility with this card, so it's quite nice. Okay, Ninth of the Dire Hunt. This one's been a really interesting card. So, 4-mana 3/3 non-werewolf. You'd have to do a lot to find a slot in this deck. I do find that opponents will block because they know that you're going to get that card draw. So you're going to get that card draw regardless, which is nice to have. And then also this kind of a double target power, target creature's power, and they have to be blocked. So giving our creatures trample, they must block it. We will get a card draw. We will get rid of that creature, and then we will get another card draw from Tovolar triggering. So if you can work on your trample and this effect, it's been very, very nice. So I do like that kind of pump effect. It's nice. 3 mana. It's an okay price to pay. I find the 3 mana can be paid. All right, Berserker's Onslaught. We want to be attacking. We want double strike, that's for sure, to get that double trigger. There are other enchantments that do something similar that you could also run. Rage Reflection off the top of my head. So you could do that. I've just done this one. I think 5 mana's fine for this effect. And double strike's just, really, really great. Overwhelming Stampede, so this kind of board pump. X will be the highest power. This is sometimes just been maybe generally it's about 5 or 6, so not huge, that's for sure, but it is again nice. It's going to give trample, which is what we want, and we want to swing out with as many creatures as we can, so it's been a nice little effect. You could play Triumph of the Horde in this spot. I definitely think that's the better card, but I'm not playing Infect in my Werewolf deck, so I went for Overwhelming Stampede. You can do Overrun as well. It's a bit more budget. Unnatural Growth. So this is why I guess we're a bit more forest green focused. This is a huge Timmy Tammy card. It definitely garners a lot of hate from your opponents. A lot of oh damn, what are we going to do now kind of thing. So at the start of each combat, you're going to double the power and toughness. Now sometimes you're just doubling a 2/2. Not that great, but I find that I'm swinging with 10/10s, 8/8s, usually around that kind of stats where I've got like a 4/4 or a 5/4 or something like that, and they become 10/10s and they trample and things like that. So yeah, I've had a blast with this card. I'm hoping my opponents have had a blast with this card, but it definitely it's kind of like that fiery emancipation effect where everybody's like, oh, this is something we need to do. We need to kill this person or get rid of this thing. So yeah. And then Xenagos, it's like my last little combat effect. One of the very few non-wolf werewolf creatures in this deck. I think Xenagos is a powerhouse. It gives haste to our creatures. It doubles their power. If I can give them trample, they're going to be swinging over. I'm doing even commander damage with Tovolar with this thing. So I really enjoyed Xenagos. I think it should be in every Tovolar deck as one of the very few werewolves that people should consider. Very powerful card. And do know, if you transform, your creatures won't have devotion to this, so obviously keep that in mind. But it's not really there for the devotion. 6/5 indestructible is great. It's also there if we can't flip. It can definitely add a bit more oomph to the battlefield. Okay, protection next up. You need to protect Tovolar. I don't have a lot of card draw outside of Tovolar. So we need to protect it as much as possible. Her intervention is great. 2 mana. It's very easy to hold up, and it's hexproof and indestructible, so it helps with those kind of effects. So absolutely, this is a must-have. Lightning Greaves, Gifting Shroud. So do know you won't be able to target it with Tovolar's ability, obviously, if it has Shroud, but giving something haste is nice, again, because we want to swing out with our creatures. So keep that in mind. It's 0 mana to equipped. It's great. I don't have to tell you why Lightning Greaves is great. Moon Mist. So interesting. So Moon Mist transforms all humans. Of course, it does not transform your daybound, nightbound creatures, but just having that fog there, and also a little bit of a combat trick when some of your older werewolves come down, even though it's night. It's nice to have, but a nice little flavored fog is really, really interesting. I was playing against another Tovolar, so it was 2 Tovolars at one pod, and of course they swung out at me. I fogged and swung out back at them. Felt good. Swiftfoot Boots, just like Lightning Greaves, this one allows for haste and also hexproof, so we can target it, which is nice, but again, it's there for the haste and protection. Deflecting SWAT, just in case anything wants to target us, it's nice and free. We want Tovolar out, so we're going to have this effect for free. It's just nice to have. So some draw. So we do play a little bit of draw. I find that you don't need a lot as long as you are protecting Tovolar. You always have a grip full. I did mulligan to 3 once and managed to have a nice grip of cards, by mid game. So, you don't need a lot of draw as long as you have cheap werewolves and then Tovolar. But Gunning Project, really, really great. There is a backup. It's also an enchantment, so it's kind of hitting that draw on a different angle. And it's also, if there is a board wipe, we can kind of build up again. And then Return of the Wild Speaker. This one I've been really impressed with. I would never play this in my Ulrich deck, that's for sure, because it specifically is non-humans. So we can draw or we can pump our non-humans. Because we're forcing night, they're going to be werewolves on their other side. So having that effect, they're not going to be humans, so we're going to meet that clause quite regularly. So this is normally a 5 mana 5/5 at instant speed. A 5 mana draw 5 at instant speed, which is really nice. And then it has the overrun effect, minus trample. So that's also an added bonus, but I do like this just for the draw. You might play like the Great Henge or something if you have that budget. I don't have that budget for this deck, but I've quite like this one. And just some value cards. So Balaged Recovery, some of our werewolves will die over time, how the game goes. So getting those permanents back, and it's a land on the other side, so just great. I put this in all green decks. And then my last spice, Lurking Predators. Love this card. So we play quite a few creatures, so we can hit this a few times going around the board, but essentially it's allowing us to have those creatures come down on our opponent's turn so that we on upkeep have those creatures. Do note that Tovolar's ability is an intervening if, so you must have the 3 werewolves for it to even trigger, so you can't upkeep put some werewolves into the battlefield. So Lurking Predators allows those cards to come down on our opponent's turn. So even if you hit 1-2 creatures, one go around the board, you're gonna get your value back, especially in that mid game where people are double spelling. So I've really loved this card, but of course you can put your own spice in here. Okay, removal, just kind of more of a classic Gruul removal package. You don't have too much options. We have a bit of fight in our deck as well as some kind of surprise trample. So that's what we got. Vandal Blast, great, deals with all artifacts, that's what we want. Moonlight Hunt, you can essentially, do all damage to a creature because you're gonna have a lot of wolves and werewolves, so that's nice. It's not a fight effect, so you're not gonna get that damage back, so that's great. Beast Within, versatile, gets rid of a permanent, they get a 3/3, whatever. We're gonna be swinging with 4/4 tramples, 5/5s, whatever, right? So it doesn't matter. Chaos Warp, another one, just deals with any permanent that we can't deal with normally, so quite nice and versatile. Kalni Ambush. Another one that this is just if the land on the other side, so it doesn't have too much downside. Plus you can fight. So we already have big creatures, we already have things that fight, so just having that effect again, but it did land on the other side, so super great. And then Blasphemous Act. So I've only got one board wipe. I don't want to be wiping the board too much. Sometimes, you're not the beatdown, someone else is the beatdown, so it can get a bit tricky. So I do have one in here. You might be able to squeeze in two. I have not yet tested with two, like Chain Reaction or something like that. I'm definitely happy with one. But you depending on your meta, you might want a second one, but Blasphemous Act, fantastic. Okay, ramp. So Soul Ring, it's pretty easy to add. Wild Growth I put in this deck just because it's a turn 1 play. It's that turn 1 ramp to get to Tovolar in turn 2. So that's a nice effect. Again, you could have Mana Dorks in this spot, sure, but I don't want to be playing elves in my werewolf deck, so this is what I got. You could also have Utopia Sprawl, but Utopia Sprawl does target forests, where this has a bit of versatility. Arcane Signet, really nice. Farseek, so we're green, we got land ramp. There's plenty of mountains in this deck, as well as dual lands that are mountain typed, so they're great. Gruul Signet, again, it's 2 mana. I don't want to be playing anything more than 2 mana just because it comes down after Tovolar. So Gruul Signet, but you might put any kind of ramp really in these slots. Nature's Law, again, this one's going to get a forest. We have a lot of forest type cards, so it's great. Comes in untapped. Rampant Growth, another one gets a land. This one does come in tapped though, so I don't want too many of these effects. 3 visits, comes in untapped, gets a forest card, great. Herald's Horn, one of the few ones that is a one singular tribal, so it reduces the tribe casting cost, which is nice. Now when you do this, choose human, don't choose werewolf or wolf or anything like that. You choose human, only because then it gets what's the name, Knight of the Dire Hunt as well. So yeah, choose human. A lot of decks that I see around also have more humans as well to help support, so you'll choose human, which is great. And there's a little bit of draw as well if you do have a human on top, I guess. So nice little card. And then the land package, you can put in, any amount of lands. I've got 34, so the CMC is a bit low. We want to be drawing a lot. We're going to be swinging out a lot, so I do have a bit of a lower land count. So just first up, Castle Embereth. I have plenty of mountains, so this comes in untapped and it can buff, which is nice. Cinderglade, this one is a mountain and forest, so great for searching. We play a few basics, so it's nice, but with those Farseek effects and where it comes in tapped, you could go get this and you'd be fine with it even if it comes in tapped. Command Tower, great, gets us colors. Copper Line Gorge, comes down quickly untapped. This one you might replace if you really wanted to. Crag Crown Pathway, it's a pathway, so it's green on the other side as well, so a bit of versatility. Fabled Passage, just to make sure that we get our basics correct. We have Unnatural Growth, which is for green mana, so you want to make sure that you manage that accordingly. Firelit Thicket, just for filter, great. We have a lot of colored mana, so that's fine. Ghost Quarter, I do play a land destruction spell, land in every deck that I play. Depending on the budget, it'll be Strip Mine or Wasteland. This one has a Ghost Quarter in, just because somebody has a Cabal Coffers or Field of the Dead or something like that, you know. You do want something in your deck for this. Highland Forest, this is something I'll get with the Farseek, just because it comes in tapped anyway, so, you know, there's no harm. It is nice and typed. Kessig Wolf Run has a wolf on it. It does the same effect as Tovolar does. You know, this is a shoe-in 100% with Tovolar, I think. But yeah, giving trample, that's what we want. And you don't, X can be 0, just to give trample, still fine. Path of Ancestry, great scry, one of the few tap lands, but it's great to scry because we do have a lot of humans and a lot of werewolves. Prismatic Vista, just to get you know, our basics into the battlefield. Yeah, nice and easy. Rockfall Vale. This one I've loved this cycle. I think it's great for EDH. The only time it's bad really is turn 2, where you might play a Mana Rock. Turn 1, sometimes you play tap lands anyway. So yeah, so turn 2, whatever, sure. But turn 3 onwards, fantastic. Rockbound Grag. We have plenty of forests and mountains, so that's great. Sheltered Thicket, another one that I'll get with Farseek, just because it comes in tap, but later in the game, yeah, it has cycling, which is great. Skerg, the Rage Pit, another one. It gives trample, +1/+1, effects that we want. Only 2 mana. Well, 2 mana and tapping this, so 3 mana. Great effect. Spy Garden. You generally have 2 or more opponents, so great. Stomping Ground, Shockland, always great. Temple Abandoned, Scryland. Scry's nice, just to kind of help with the draw, just to get rid of a card you don't want. Unclaimed Territory, naming humans. Well, sorry. Actually, now that I think about it, you might want to name Werewolf, just because there's, you know, you got things coming on their Nightbound side. I've literally just come to that conclusion. That's actually interesting. Yeah, because you do have Nightbound, so they are coming down in the Nightbound side. Does that matter? I don't know. I'll need a judge, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, because you're casting on the other side. Anyway, name Werewolf. Herald's Horn, name Werewolf, I guess. Wooded Foothills. Yeah, eventually, great. Yavimaya Cradle of Growth, you know, we have unnatural growth, so we want as many forests as we can. And then the rest is basics, so 10 forests and 2 mountains. So yeah, that's my Tovolar deck. I have had a blast with this commander. You will be taken out first. A lot of games I get taken out first. Perhaps I'm just too aggressive, but I've had a lot of fun with it. A lot of fun flipping over a lot of nuances. Very hard deck to actually pilot, considering that there's so much that you have to keep track of day and night, as well as your other creatures, as well as all your pump effects. So if you're not good at maths, you know, this is probably one to stay away. But it's been fun. It's not one where, you know, you can be on your phone between your opponent's turns. It's one that you really need to concentrate every turn, because your opponents are going to expect that you track your day and night. But I've had a blast. I love this commander. Yeah, I've been super happy with it. So I hope you enjoy the deck too, Sue, as well. And I'll see you later.